joining from different places. So today we have a very interesting agenda planned out for the session. The name of the session is going to be data preparation using Excel Power Query, something that I'm sure a lot of people have not used here. Excel Power Query, a very powerful data preparation or data transformation tool, data extraction, transformation, and loading, the ETL tool. And also, we will also see, how can we do a data analysis using SQL, maybe a little bit of it as well, because SQL is a vast subject. So that's going to be the topic name for today's workshop. My name is Prateek Agrawal. I'm one of the co-founders at IvyProSchool. I've spent 17 plus years in the data consulting industry, both in the US and over here in India. If you want to know more about me, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn if you just, or on Twitter. I'm not so active on Instagram. So if you just Google my name on, if you just Google my name on Prateek Ivy on Google, you will find the first profile is mine, LinkedIn, as well as first profile on Twitter is also mine. Just Google Prateek Agrawal or Prateek Ivy on Google and you'll find me, and I'll be more than happy to get connected with you all. All right, so data preparation using Excel, Power Query, and data analysis using SQL. Two very nice related topics that we will discuss today, and we'll also see two different tools altogether, Power Query and SQL. So the first exercise, and the way I have planned this workshop is that I don't want to spend a lot of time in theory, although we will definitely cover some concepts as the time comes, but we will do it in an exercise mode, right? Because I'm sure everybody has Excel files with them, right? So data preparation essentials using Excel Power Query is something that we'll start with. These are the steps that we will perform in cleaning the data, in preparing the data for analysis. This is what we will do today, and tomorrow we will actually use the same data in Python. Once we have prepared the data over here using Excel Power Query and SQL, then we'll use the same data tomorrow in Python to do further analysis on it. So we are preparing the data today for analyzing it later in Python tomorrow. That means we're going to take care of all the issues. Can you all hear me loud and clear, everybody? Yeah. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. So today's agenda is to prepare the data so that it is ready for analysis, and tomorrow's agenda would be to analyze it graphically, visually, using Python. So do not miss tomorrow's workshop as well. And if you do attend both the workshops today and tomorrow's, then you will get a certificate from IvyProSchool as well. And and do not forget to subscribe to Ivy's YouTube channel, because the recording of this workshop would be uploaded there. All right, and plus a lot of such similar workshop you'll find by different industry professionals on Ivy's YouTube channel. If you just Google IvyProSchool YouTube, you'll find Ivy's YouTube channel as well. Great, thank you. So that's what we will do today. I am of course going to use a data set here today to perform these steps, and you have the option to perform it along with me. I would really appreciate it if you can do it with me. I'll give you enough time, or you can also do it later, but I would love it if you perform it along with me. Now when I'm doing it, don't do it right at that moment. I will give you a couple of minutes once I'm done to try and do it. Now before that, you would of course require the data set, right? So let me second. Give me a second, guys. All right. Let me give you the files as well on so people who are attending from Zoom today, I'm going to upload the file in the Zoom app. People who are attending it on YouTube, I will upload the link in under the video in the description section later after the session today. For the folks who are attending it on Zoom app, if you go to the Zoom app, right, I've uploaded two files. The first file name is customer_details.csv, and the second file name is transaction_details.csv. CSV extension basically means comma separated values file, and it is a industry common format to share the data. So these are the two files that I have shared with you, customer underscore details and transaction underscore data. So I'm going to open customer underscore details now, and you can also download and open from Zoom app. And since CSV file in my system can be read in Excel, but a CSV file is like a text file where each field is separated by a comma, hence the name comma separated values file. It's a very light file. It's not a Microsoft Excel.xlsx extension, which is heavier. This is just a data, no formatting. I don't want to apply any such things. So that is why I've kept as CSV. And plus, since we're going to be using the same data after modifying it, of course, in SQL, then of course, it becomes very simple if you have it. If you have the data in a CSV format or a JSON format, to import it in a SQL-based database as well. All right, great. So this is my transaction table, and this is my customer table. Now, what is a table? A table contains these columns. As you can see, these are the columns of a table. And these are the headers of the table or attributes of the table. So you can see this table contains customer ID, date of birth, gender, marital status. 0 means not married, 1 means married, lucky person. Education, what kind of an education the person has, profession, what kind of profession the person is into, and the income in probably dollars, right? So that is the detail. These are the details that we have for each and every customer in our business. And if I press Alt Tab and if I go to transaction underscore data, I will upload it in Google link as well. Just give me a moment. I will upload it. I probably should have done it earlier, but I'll do it anyways. So let me explain it, Jelly Pardu, and then I will upload it to once I give you some exercises to work upon, Jelly Pardu, then I'll utilize that time to upload it on Google Drive link and send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
All righty, here, so we got transactions. So see earlier the first table that we saw was the customer table. In the second table, what we see is transaction ID, customer ID. Now, customer ID is the common column between this table and Alt Tab. The customer details table also has cust ID. So you can see this is the common column between the two, Alt Tab. And then we've got month name, we got product category, we got quantity, rate, amount, delivery charges for delivering the product, payment mode, how did the payment happen, store type, whether it was an e-shop or a telephone-based shop or a multi-retail shop, reviews, did we receive the reviews or not? So 1 basically means, or sorry, the rating, review is the rating between 1 and 5. 1 basically means the least review, 4 second best, 5 the highest review. So that is the review, the feedback. So if you notice, the data is about a delivery app company or an e-commerce company which is into delivering different products. Yeah. So we got the customer details in one table, and we got the transaction details in the other table, and the names are customer data, customers got data table, and transaction underscore data table. Now let's go to Alt Tab. Let's go to customer. Alt Tab. I'll go back to transaction table. In the transaction table, let's look at these columns and let's see if we have some issues with these columns. Remember, before we can start analyzing the data, there are a few things that you got to be careful about in the data. You want to make sure that the data is ready to be analyzed. One of the very common things that we do is that, let me put it over here. Common checks before you start analyzing the data. One is check if there are missing values in the columns. Check if there are errors in the values in the columns. Check if the data format or data type is correctly set. We'll talk about this. Check Um, check if the table is correctly formatted. The table is correctly formatted, meaning it should be unidimensional. We will talk about this as well. And there are a lot of other things, but at least even if you're doing these 4 or 5 things, you will see a lot of things you will take care of, right? Let's first look at missing values in the columns and any kind of errors, right? If I go back to Alt Tab and if I go to the transaction table here, I can quickly eyeball here, right? I can quickly eyeball. Transaction ID doesn't look like there is any problem right now, up until at least the values that I can see with my eye right now in this page, right? Month as well, everything looks all right. Product category looks all right. Quantity looks kind of all right. Rate looks all right. But in amount, what do we notice here, guys? What is wrong with amount, or what is not so right with amount? Quickly, simple thing. What do you guys think? What is not right about the amount column? So it has missing
Blanks. Null values.
Some columns are missing, some data is missing.
Some columns are, some values are missing in this
Values
column.
are missing.
Yes, yes.
Now, when it comes to missing values, there are a few common practices to impute. That means impute meaning replace the missing values with certain other values. Ideally, in none of your columns should have any missing values or any errors at all. Otherwise, the analysis can throw wrong results, can throw weird results. Yeah. So what are the common things that we do in order to treat the missing value? So solution here for missing value is how to treat the missing values. What are the common tricks, common methods? Anybody? What are the common methods for treating the missing value?
Sir, applying mean and median.
Okay, applying, replace the missing values with mean or median. That means average or the median values. Applicable easily in numeric fields. Numeric fields or number fields, you can easily do this. Or replace the missing values with mode. Not even mean, not even median, but with mode. What is mode? The highest frequency occurring value or values, right? Again, very easy in a numeric field, right? But in a non-numeric field, as well, we can replace the missing values with the highest or most frequently occurring value. We will talk about it. What does it mean? Let's say if I come over here, I have gotten in the customer table, Alt Tab. In the customer table, I've got education. If you look at the education field as well, there are missing values. In the education field, we will see that we will replace these missing values. We can't really find an average or mean or median of these values, isn't it, guys? So what we will do is that we will replace the missing values here with whichever education degree is the most highest or most frequently occurring education degree. It is not the most accurate thing to do, but probably here in this case, maybe it is the next best thing to do. Is it making sense, everybody? So we'll see how we can find the most frequently occurring value among these values, education degrees, and how we can replace this with missing values with that. So something like that also we can do. And the C option is do nothing. But this is not a very, but it's a very risky option. Risky option. There is, sorry, in fact, before we go to C, delete rows which have missing values. Normally, when do we do this? Any suggestion, when should we do this? delete rows with missing values. Kalpana is saying replace the missing values with 0. Kalpana, almost never should we just do it blindly like that, Kalpana. Because 0 can have a lot of impact on the data. Do you understand, Kalpana, what I'm trying to say? It's a common misconception that if there is a missing value in a numeric field, why don't we just replace it with 0? But 0, remember, what if it's a marks field, Kalpana, and the class average is 65, and all of a sudden you have 10% missing values and replace them with 0, your class average will go down drastically and impacting your data analysis significantly. Anshu is saying replace with null. Well, delete rows which have missing values if the number of missing values, if the percentage of missing values, right, is extremely few or extremely low. Low, for example, less than 3% values are missing, then we can delete those rows. Again, this may vary from industry to industry as well. If you're working in a highly regulated industry, for example, a BFSI, a bank or banking and financial industry data, where every value may matter because of some regulation. So we can't really do that also there, right? But generally speaking, especially in data like e-commerce data, delivery app data, food aggregation data, a lot of stuff is happening in these product-based companies. So there we say that if the missing values are less than 3%, 2%, 1%, we say, all right, let's ignore them. Let's delete those rows. Is it making sense, guys? But again, not a very comfortable option to go ahead with. C option and the D option are not very, very good things to do. So Shwetank is also suggesting one more thing. Shwetank is suggesting that if certain columns has missing values and that attribute is not highly correlated with dependent variable, then we can drop that column. See, Shwetank, there is a debate on that. The debate is, imagine I go to the customer table. Imagine for a lot of customer, we had missing values of education field. Now, logic says that customer education should influence customer decision making because it can influence your income as well. Logic says, but a lot of customers' values, education field values are missing. Now, does it mean that we just blindly drop that column? Because if you do a regression analysis and you try to find a correlation between education and
yes, sir. That's what I said. If it is not highly correlated, then we can drop. If it is highly correlated, we cannot drop it.
That's what I'm saying. In statistically, if you try and see this, because a lot of data is missing here, statistically you will see that it is not correlated because a lot of data is missing. So there's probably no correlation between education and income in this data, let's say, because the data is missing. But logic says that no, education is going to have a significant impact on income. Do you understand, Shwetank, what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So it's always a trade-off. It's always a balance between your logic and what is statistically coming out. Yes, what Shwetank said, that if there is no correlation between one column which has a lot of missing values with the dependent variable, let's say in this case it is income, then yes, we can consider to drop that education column, right? But here the logic very strongly says that education will have a significant impact on the income and maybe on the number of deliveries that person asks for, because the income would be high as well. All right, Control Z. Coming back over here, right? So these are some of the options that we can see. Now, let's look at how we can do these things, right? I don't want to go into C option and D option, right? For now, I will not do that. That is pretty self-explanatory if you have to do it. Yes, the missing values can be treated in Excel, can be treated in SQL, can be treated in SQL as well. What happens is, with Excel nowadays, especially with something called as a Power Query, with Power Query inbuilt into Excel, and Excel is a very universal tool available everywhere. available in all the corporates. Even if that company does not have Python, even if that company has not invested into Power BI or Tableau, right? Even if you're not skilled in Python, not skilled in Power BI, not skilled in Tableau, you can still do a lot of things with Excel Power Query ETL tool or extract transform load tool. You will see that's pretty powerful for preparing data. And the best part is that it is not limited by the size. That means normally your Excel files are limited to 1 million rows. You can see if I press Alt Tab, come over here. If I scroll down, and if I scroll down, see it's approximately 1 million and a few rows extra. So yes, Excel is limited by size in terms of number of rows. But when we use Excel Power Query, then you are not limited by the number of rows as well. You're not limited by how much values, what kind of size of data can you store in Excel. Is it making sense, guys? So we will use that feature that makes Excel so dynamic and makes Excel's data preparation stuff very quick as well. Now, how do we go into Power Query? How do we load this data into something called as a Power Query window, which will help us transform this? The first transformation that we want to do is we want to go to the transaction data and look at the exercise here. Look at the exercise here. It says the first thing is fill the amount column with this formula in the transaction table. This is in the transaction table. Which formula? Quantity into rate. If you notice, if I go to the transaction data here, there is a column called as amount. In amount, there are a lot of missing values here. You can see this. There are a lot of missing values. It says, please replace these missing values by multiplying quantity into rate. Whatever comes is going to be the value for the amount column. So yes, what we can do in normal Excel as well, that I can put a filter here, I can find the blank values, I can write the function, but that is too tedious. And remember, this table has 19,598 records. So it's a fairly large table if you compare Excel. Here we will use Power Query. First, why would we want to use Power Query? Because it's going to be extremely fast in transformation, and it helps you to save the steps that we use for transformation, so that you can reuse those steps in the further data as well. And plus, it is not limited by the size. How do we? So, but in order to use Power Query, first we have to load the Excel data into Power Query editor in Excel. Meaning, so I'm just going to write some steps here. How to load data tables into Power Query editor so that we can apply transformation steps. Remember, Power Query is the ETL tool available in Excel. Extract transform load tool. Very powerful feature. You know, a lot of job openings are there for people who know how to do ETL stuff. What are the steps? So the first step here is convert the Excel table into something called as a dynamic table range. Now, what is the meaning of this? You will see. Once converted, then use get data. We'll see what that means. From other sources, from table and range, right? This will help you get the Excel table into Power Query. Let's see. How do we first do this? Convert the Excel table into dynamic table range. Look at it carefully. I keep my cursor into the table, and then I press Control A. The moment I press Control A, if your cursor is inside the table in Excel, it will select the entire table. You could have manually done this as well. How? You could have used the traditional way. You know, you could start dragging from here till here, and then, but you know, this is going to be extremely tedious then, because there are 19,500 records. So I just press Control A. It will select the entire table. Then remember, we want to convert this into dynamic table range. Then in order to convert a selected table in Excel into a dynamic table, what you need to do is very simple. Go to Home, go to Format as Table, select any one of these formatting options. Say, for example, I select this option. Then it says, where is the data for your table? This is my data, A1 to K 19,598. My table does have headers. The first row is headers. And I press OK. And look at this. This is formatted. And plus, the moment you convert the selected data into an Excel dynamic table by going to Format Cells and doing that, what it does is that it creates another tab in the menu on the top here. It says Table Design. Another Table Design under Properties, the table name is Table 1. I'll come over here and I'll rename it to Razib. You have a question? Transaction Table. Press Enter. Razib, you have a question? All right, great. Now, there is another method, guys, okay? Another method. So I'll just press Control Z. It is normal table again. How did we select the entire table? Anybody quickly who can tell me what is the step to select the entire table?
So at first I have to put the mouse, click
Sure.
on the, at first we have to click on the middle of the table and then type Control A.
Then press Control A in your keyboard and will select the entire table. Now, after that, we went to Home, Format as Table, and then we format it as table. However, there's a shortcut to convert this into a dynamic table range as well. That means instead of going there, you press Control T. Thank you, Salman. Where is the data? So this is the same option. Thank you, Salman. My table does have headers. You can see table design. Formatting it takes automatically. Table name, let's name it as Transaction Table. Press Enter. Right? Remember, there should not be any space. So it has named this entire table. Now, if you keep your cursor inside anywhere in the table design, it'll show you the table name. Do not forget to press Enter. So this is converted to dynamic table range. The benefit is that if you add more data here, that additional data rows will automatically become part of the table. Nice, very nice. Now I keep my cursor here. Now the next step is that I want to use the get data to take the table from Excel to Power Query Editor, where we can apply the transformation steps that we want to apply as part of the data cleaning steps. So I keep my cursor here. Then I go to data on top, data. Then I go to get and transform data, and under get data here from file. So we can actually extract the data. That means we can import the data into Excel Power Query from different sources, from file, from text file, from Excel workbook, from folder, from another database, from cloud service platforms, and from other sources. Remember, we do not want to import the data from an Excel, some other Excel file, but we want to import the data. If I go to from other sources, I want to import the data from a table and range. You see, you can also import the data from website, from other object-oriented database connectivity like Oracle and whatnot. So I'll go to from table range. And when I go to from table range, since my cursor was inside that table, it automatically takes that table, dynamic table. The name of that table was transaction table, and brings it into Power Query Editor. Remember, this is not an Excel window. This is a Power Query Editor window, which is part of Excel, but it's not a normal Excel user interface. Is it making sense, everybody?
So can you repeat it once?
I will repeat it once. No problem. Let me close this card. So sorry, Saudi, we named the table. There's the name of the table. I kept my cursor inside the table. Then I went to data. Then I went to get data. Then I went to from other sources, from table and range, right? And then this will bring the data, and this will also open Power Query Editor, and this will bring the data over into Power Query. Now, this is the tool for ETL, extract, transform, load. We have extracted the data from an Excel table. and we have brought it, loaded it into Power Query. Now we want to do some transformation. But before that, I'll just quickly explain you the user interface for Power Query. This area, let's say number 1 area, number 2 area, and number 3 area. This is number 1. This is number 1, number 2, number 3. This is the area where all the queries are the anytime we bring in more data in Power Query. That means for every time we bring it, it's a query that we are forming. Query is a question that Power Query is asking the source. The source of this table is that table range, the dynamic table that we created in Excel. So that is a query. Okay, actually we can see the code also for that query. You can see the codes. We will not go to the code of it, which is called as M code or Power BI scripting language. We will not go into that. So this is the query window. The second is the transformation window. This is where we will apply the transformation, the table view. And the third is the window where you can see all the transformation steps that we will apply. These are transformation steps. Whatever transformation steps that we apply here will be applied sequentially here, and you will have the liberty to remove one of the steps. You can apply more steps as well as we go along. And this is the name of this query. So let's call it as transaction table query. Enter. Alrighty. Now, what are the transformations that we want to do? Now, here the best part is, do you see this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, ABC, 1, ABC, 1, 2, 3, and if I scroll towards the right, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Payment mode, 1, 2, 3 reviews. You see these things, right? These basically means it is showing the data type of the data under that particular field. 1, 2, 3 basically means it is integer. If I click on this, it'll give you an option to change the data type, the type of data that resides in this particular column. Come over here, cust ID is also going to be integer, that's fine. Month name is going to be ABC, that means it's text value, see text value is ABC. Product category is text value, quantity is 1, 2, 3, fine. Rate, I will convert this into currency, the default currency, and replace the current step. See, it's saying that this was transformed already in this step. So it converts into currency step. Look at the $sign which comes for the currency step. Amount also I will change it to currency. These are all the transformation that we are applying. Delivery charges, currency, replace current. Replace current meaning it's happening in this step only. Best part is wherever the missing values were, it has replaced the missing values with null for now. Payment mode, let that be ABC. Store type, let that be ABC. Text, reviews 1, 2, 3 is fine. So these are the basic data transformation steps, data type transformation steps, right? Now, do you see the green bar here? If I hover my mouse there, it shows me customer ID contains 1000 valid record, which is 100% of it, 0 error, 0 empty. But if I go to the amount column, and if I hover my mouse into this green bar, it shows what? What is it showing, guys? What is this showing? It is showing that 5% values are empty values. 5% of the values are empty values. And 948 values are filled. So those empty values are filled with null values. And similarly, in delivery charges, 47% of the values are empty. Now this is crucial, guys. 47%. Here, only 5%. Here, 47%. And if you notice where it is completely green, that means nothing is missing. You must have noticed that. See how easy it is. On reviews as well, we have a few missing. Less than 1%. So we can ignore those missing values as well, by the way. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, guys? Right? So if you want to ignore the values, or I'll just keep it as null, no worries. Let's go to the amount column. We decided that we wanted to replace the amount column, transform the amount column, null values with what? We wanted to transform the amount column null values with what, guys? With This formula
Quantity into rate.
into
Quantity.
rate.
Into rate.
Quantity into rate.
Into
Now, how do I do that? So remember, Excel, we would have written a formula here equals to something and then we would have gone. But remember, we are not in Excel. We are in Power Query Editor, which is like writing a macro here. So here under Home, Transform, Add a column, you have a lot of options. Transform basically contains all those options, all those transformation steps, which will transform the data in an existing column. For example, if I click on Amount, if I go to Transform, and I will say replace, see any column here, replace values. If I go there, replace values, and in the replace values, if I click on replace values, it says value to find. Let's say if I write null, I replace with what? Now here, I can't write a formula, unfortunately. I cannot write a formula, unfortunately. That means I can't use this option. I cannot use this option. Let's see if we can use some other option here. Convert to list, move one pivot, no, nothing like that. Format, split column, no. Statistics, no, not median, not sum, average, no. So what should I do? So I can't seem to do anything with the transformation step. What I will go and do is that I will go to add column. I'll add a new column here. Okay, and in that new column, I will write, I will create a conditional column. The conditional column is that, let's call it as a new amount, and the column name is amount. If, look at this, if the column name amount equals what value, guys? What value? Null. Then the output should be equals what?
Rate into quantity.
What is the name? Rate as nothing. It says it was not recognized correctly. Rate. So I will delete this step and let's see what step would be right. Let me create a custom column. Let's try and see. Quantity into weight, no syntax error, new column name, right? Press OK. What does it do? It creates a new column called as new amount. Let's make it change as currency. So this column is created. Now, if you want to move this column towards the left where it was, so I can go to transform and I can say move left, or I can bring it, just drag it. I've got it over here, right? So what did I do, guys? Let me remove this step again. What did I do? I went to add a column. I went to custom column, and in the custom column, I wrote new amount equals to, and then don't try to type in. That was a mistake that I was doing. So quantity has to be under a pair of square brackets, any field, into rate, double click on it. No syntax errors. Press OK. The new column gets created. I change the data type to currency and no missing values. I can see. How do I know that there are no missing values in this column? Because if I go to green bar here, it is full. So 0% empty. Now I will just move this column. Not a mandatory step. And now what should I do with the old amount column? What should I do?
Will be deleted.
Will delete it. So select that column, go to home, and then there is something called as remove column. Just remove that column. Look at the applied steps. All these steps are applied. It added the change type step where we made a lot of transformation to the type of the data. Then it added column. Then it changed the type, right? Added a column. Which column? Custom column. Which was that column?
New amount.
The new amount column. You can see the M code also, new amount column. And then it changed the data type to currency. Then it reordered the data. Then it removed that amount column. So all the steps are here. And if you don't want any of these steps, you can delete. There is no Control Z option here, but you can delete these steps. Is it making sense, everybody? Clear? Now, let's look at, so first transformation is done. Let's look at the second thing that we would want to do. Fill the amount column is done. Replace all blank values in the delivery charges with 0. All the blank values in delivery charges with 0. Now, sorry, any question, Razeen? Now, although it says replace it with 0, but I kind of not agree here because 47% values are going to be 0 then. So what should we do then, guys? What should we do?
Can we apply mode?
And mode as well. Of course, we can apply mode. But in order to find the mode, in order to find the mode, what we'll do is, Rajiv, sorry, I think that this mic is getting on. In order to find the mode here, we can't apply such aggregation function in Power Query. So what we'll have to unfortunately do is that we'll have to first find the mode in normal Excel, keep that value handy, and come to Power Query and then make that change. So what I'll do is that I'll take this data, whatever transformation that we have done so far, I will take this data into Excel, okay, and then we will again come back and make the changes to the Power Query. So what I'll do is I want to load this transform data into Excel, into a new file, into a new sheet in Excel. So what I'll do is I'll go to close and load, and I'll go to close and load too, but not the first option. The reason why we want to go to close and load too is because it will give us option to place the transform data in my selected space. So it says select how you want to view the data in your workbook. I want to view it in a table. Where do you want to put the data? In a new worksheet. Okay, press OK. It creates another worksheet called as transaction table query worksheet. On the right hand side, it is loading the data and it is also transforming the data, and it has transformed the data. It has loaded it here. Now what I want to do is on this table, and the name of this table is transaction table query, as you can see over here. And remember, I want to find the mode of delivery charges, which is a numeric column. So I can easily find the mode. How to find the mode in Excel? So we have a function called as mode. So let's use that function. Equals to mode. And I will go and select the delivery charges column. Control shift down, control shift down.
So you can give H to H.
Yeah, no, H to H is not a very good thing to do. What if it had some other data down below? I get a point. I mean, I can do one thing. If you want to just quickly, I know the last row here is 19,598 and the first row is second. So, and the delivery charge columns is H. So I'll write equals to mode of H2 is to H19583. So the mode comes out to be 50. This is the most frequently delivery charge amount. So we will keep this amount in mind, 50, and then we will right click on this query, and I'll go to edit this query, right click on this query. There's a Power Query where we saw all those steps. So all the applied steps are part of that query. These are the applied steps, right? And I will go to the delivery charge. Remember, I want to replace the null values with 50. So I'll click, select this, and then I will go to transform. And there we have seen replace values. I'll go to replace values here. You all can see my screen, right? And the values that we want to replace is null with 50. Look at this, interesting. And I have to do it once and it will do it for all. You can see it. Delivery charges, make it currency. Clear, guys? Did you all see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, the data preparation task is more like jugaad most of the time, right? A lot of things we have to do by, by being smart, right? So here we were smart to go back to Excel, find the mode because it's not possible to find the mode in Power Query. And then we found that mode value for the delivery charges column. And then we came back over here in Power Query and we made that change very quickly. So that's also done. Let's look at the third step. The third step, mode. The third step is, Salman is saying, will there be any issue if we try to replace the values by using built-in statistics function? The built-in statistics function are these functions you're talking about? Salman? Here, there is no mode. I have median, I have average, but no mode. I get a point. And the moment you do built-in statistics function here, it will summarize the data. So it will not be at the row level at all. Let's look at the third step. In the customer details table, find mode for the marital status column and replace the blank values with the mode. Again, the same thing. So here, I will not do this step because, okay, I will do this step because I don't think there is any other thing that we want to do. So all the changes that we have to make on the transaction table is done. So I'll go to the home here, and this time I'll close and load because it's already loaded to a particular value, particular cell here. It's already loaded. So this is done. Now the same step I will do with the customer table. So I go to the customer table, Alt Tab, and the first thing, Control A to select, Control T to change it to dynamic table. Press OK. There is a name, table design. Let's name it relevantly, customers table or customer table. Enter. Then I go to data. Then I go to get data. Then I go to from other sources, from table and range. I'm bringing that customer table into Power Query Editor because that's a transformation superpower. And then here are a couple of things that we will quickly do. We'll make the transformation for the column data types proper. So date of birth is showing date as well as time, but all the times is 000. So I'll click over here and I'll make it as date only. Replace the current step without adding additional steps. So it replaces the date. Gender is MNF is fine. Marital status is 10 is fine. And it seems like there are some missing values, 2% missing values. Education, ABC is fine. How many values are missing? 10%, 1%. Profession is fine. Income, I'll change it to currency. Replace the current. So all the data change type is happening in the first step, and that's the last column. Now I'll change the name as well. I'll write query, enter. Now, what are the steps that we want to do? Customer education to education, marital status, replace with mode. Again, the same thing. You would take this data back to the Excel, back to the Excel window, find the mode using that mode function, and then come back over here in the marital status column and replace it with mode. I know the mode is 1 for marital status. Remember, it's 0 and 1. So what I'll do is that I'll select this column. I'll go to transform. I'll go to replace values. Null with 1. I've already found the mode for this using the same mode function in Excel. Now it says one more interesting thing. It says that in the customer table, education column 2 has blank values. But the problem with education column is what? The problem with education column is that, what is the problem with education column? What do you guys think? What kind of values do we see in education column? Do we see numeric values at all here? Do we see numeric values? We don't see numeric values here. So you cannot find mode, because mode can be found on non-numeric values using the mode function. So the next best thing that we will do for education non-numeric column is that we will find out the highest frequency. That means we'll find out the degree which occurs the most, and then replace the blank values with that highest frequency occurring degree. Is it making sense, everybody? Is it making sense? Now, how do we find the highest frequency occurring values here? Now, the problem again is, okay, so we'll see actually how we can do this here. I will keep my cursor into the education column. Then under transform, I will go to something called as group by. Look at this first thing, group by. Group by education, find the new column as education count, count of rows, of operation is count of rows, and then press OK. It adds a step. Look at this, guys, and it gives you the education count. The education count, and then also I will select this education count, and I'll go to home and I'll sort it Z2A, that means highest value to lowest value. So what is the highest value here? The highest frequently occurring value is others, unfortunately. Do you understand? That means the null value should be replaced with what? That means the null value should be replaced with others, as simple as that. So I am done with this step. I will delete this step. I'll click over here and I have deleted this step. I have deleted this step as well, grouped rows. And I will go to the education column here and I'll go to transform, replace values, and I will replace null with, be cautious, it is spelling case sensitive Power Query with, sorry, others, and I pressed OK. There were 70 values only, so now it is done. Did you understand this, guys? Very, very simple steps, right? So these are the steps that we did. And then once this is done, what are the next thing that we should do? Once all the transformations are done, what are the next thing to do? Load it back. And how do I load it back? I go to home. I go to close and load. Which option should I select? Which option should I select?
Close and load.
Close and load 2. Why? Because I don't want to load it to the original table. I want to create a new worksheet as a new worksheet. And it's getting the data, it's loading the data. You can see the query is running and it's getting the data. It's gotten the data, 19,597 rows loaded with those, all the transformation steps done. Now these two tables are ready. Customer table and the transaction table are ready for taking them into either SQL or into Python to do further analysis. Now, we don't have time today for doing SQL based analysis, but I'm going to tell my colleague who's going to take your Python classes to show you how can you run SQL query from within Python on this transform data. So he's going to continue on this transform data, these two tables. He will actually tell you how do we merge these two tables using SQL in Python, right? And then how do you visualize this table for further analysis using very interesting set of library of functions in Python as well. So do not miss tomorrow's class, guys. And any questions at all on the steps that we have performed today? Otherwise, I will summarize it on the steps that we performed today. Any questions at all? Any questions at all, guys? Now, couple of things I will quickly summarize here, guys. Yeah. What are the steps that we have done? The steps that we did today is we wanted to clean the data. We wanted to prepare the data so that it's ready for analysis in higher tools like SQL or Python for various different analysis. So we also learned that what are the typical errors that we normally find. So we find missing values. We also find errors. We saw that in Power Query, there was an option when we went to replace values, there was an option to replace errors as well. Anyway, and then we also checked if the date format was correctly set or not. So these are the common checks that we perform. In missing values, there are multiple things that you can do. Replace the missing values with mean, median, or mode.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So what is errors in the values in column? Can you give me a example?
Yeah, a lot. Let's say you have a column which has div by 0 error. You have a numeric column where you divided by mistake, you divided some values by 0. So you'll have div by 0 error, right? You have, let's say, some unprintable character there, unrecognizable characters input into customer ID. So errors can be of variety of different types. Shwetan, I get a point.
Okay, sir.
So we saw these things, right? That these are some of the things that we do. And then Salman's question is how to fix the date formation, like when we face error instead of actual date. Very good question. Let me show you what are the kind of errors that you normally see in date. Good question, Shwetan. Salman. It'll take me a moment to do this. In order to do that issue that Salman is talking about, date. Fortunately for our case, the date was given. Original date was also given in dd-mm-yy format. This is the format that my Excel, which is configured with Indian locale, Indian regional setting, was able to read it very quickly. No problem I face in this particular data set. But let me open another data set. I did one more workshop today in the morning, consulting workshop, where we had the same issue. Let me open this. This particular file. Now, in this file, look at this data. Look at this data here, guys. Suppose this is my data. Now, what is the problem with this data, Salman? Notice this. The problem with this data is what? The problem with this data is that it contains product in one cell itself. In one cell itself, it contains a product name, space, / space, date, and the date is given, if you notice carefully, the date is given in mm-dd-yyyy format. But my Excel doesn't understand mm-dd-yyyy format. It understands dd-mm-yyyy format, right? So here, there are a couple of things that we have to do. We have to transform. That means we have to split this into 3 different columns. The first column will be product. The second column will be date. And the third column will be region. But after splitting, we will have to change the date format to the correct date format that my Excel can understand. And we'll see this. It's not going to take a lot of time to do this. So I will take the liberty of taking your 2 to 3 extra minutes, guys. I know some of you have to leave. If you want to leave, you can, but I would advise you to stay because this is a very common error that most of you would face while working with real life data, the date problems, iconic date problems. So again, what is the first step, Salman, we should do before we bring this data into Power Query to do the transformation steps? So we select this entire table, convert this into dynamic table range, Control T. My table does have headers, and we will name it as, let's say, product date region amount table. Press enter, and then I keep my cursor here. I go to data. I go to get data. I go to from other sources, from table and range. And then when I'm here, notice description is here, amount is here, amount, I change the data type to currency. Good, great. Replace the current step is fine. 2 steps are applied. Let me change it to query. Now the description column needs to be split. How do I split it? Any transformation we want to do on a column, I select that column, I go to transform and look for the steps. So I can see very easily that there is a split column. Split by what? Delimiter. What is a delimiter? Delimiter is a separator. So if you notice, the delimiter here is a space / space. So I go to delimiter. And when I go to the delimiter, what is my delimiter? It's not space. It's not a /. It is a custom delimiter. Again, another beauty of using Power Query, that you can define your own custom delimiter. Space / space. That is a custom delimiter. At each occurrence of the delimiter, that means for at each occurrence, so it will divide it. Press OK. Look at this. It has divided it into 3 different columns. Let's rename it. Product, enter. This is going to be date, enter. This is going to be region, enter. Everything is fine. Date is fine. Product is fine. It's going to be ABC. Region is also going to be ABC. Date format is fine. But the moment I come to ABC here and use one of the date formats, see, it gives me errors. Do you see this, Salman? Why is it giving me error? Why? Because the date input date format was not in the format that my Excel with Indian locale, Indian regional setting would understand. Did you understand, Salman, the error that I'm getting here? Gurjot, hang on to that question. Gurjot's question is, can Excel Power Query replace the SQL? Hang on to that question and we will have a quick discussion on it as well. Now, if you notice, I don't want to do this. So I delete this step. I don't want to do this. I don't want this error. What can I do then? So if I right click here, if I go to date transformation. Oh, sorry. If I click over here, I'm sorry, why would I click? If I click over here in the data type, and instead of date, I go all the way down to using locale. Interesting option. See how Microsoft realized these kind of things and made these changes. So using locale will allow you to change the locale. But before that, what kind of data type you're working with? Date. And locale, I want to see. Remember, it is DD YYY format. Which country is famous for DD YYY format in the world? Which country? It is the US.
India.
I'm going to look for English. Remember, I'm talking about DDYY format. So English United States, and look at the sample input. So this English United States date format can understand DDYY format. So I press OK. And since I did so, it did not get the error now, Salman. Did you understand, Salman? So this was just a sample of it, but your date format can be of different types, and you can still apply the formation, a lot of transformation steps from within Power Query. The same thing would have been very difficult to do if you were only in Excel and if you're trying to do Control F, or if you're trying to do any such transformation. But in Power Query, these are already given things. I didn't even have to write any formula, no cell function, nothing. Is making sense, everybody? Makes your life much easier. And then once this transformation is done, I'll close and load to. And remember, it's not a small transformation we have done. We have split it as well into multiple columns. We change the data type. We change the date format as well. Close and load to as a table into a new worksheet. And interestingly, it loads the data and transforms, loads the data as well. Right? And the best thing is all the steps that we performed are all part of this. Salman's question is, when we split the column by space / space, it split the required values. But what would be the way if there is no space before and after / it will split the data into 3 different values. Now, interestingly, a lot of good options are available in Power Query. Look at this option for splitting. It's so interesting. You can actually extract the values from within a column, not just by a set pattern. So if you notice here, although doesn't make sense here, but yeah, well, actually, yeah, I mean, just look at this. Yeah, if you notice, if I go to transform, and if I go to extract, look at this: text before delimiter, text after delimiter, text between delimiter, first character, last character. and also we want to split the columns, right? We want to split the columns. So I'll go to split column here by position. You can split it by position, by lowercase to uppercase, by uppercase to lowercase, by digit to non-digit. Do you understand? Suppose if I did so, look at this, digit to non-digit. Non-digit was a hyphen. I get your point, Salman, what I'm trying to say. Well, not so much of case statement, but you don't really require case statement because we have conditional statements here. You can create a conditional column. So you can actually give it a try, conditional column. So there are a lot of transformation steps given here, guys. Do try to explore. Remember, the transform steps will make the changes onto the existing column. The add column steps will actually add a new column. Is that making sense? So do try. Do try. Now, so these are some of the steps that we did today. And also, we learned how to fill the amount column using BigQuery. We learned how to replace all the blank values in delivery charges with mode. We first found the mode using the mode function in Excel. And in the customer table, we found out, we also replaced the marital status with mode, which was 1. And the customer table, again, we found the education column most frequently occurring value, and we replaced it. Replace the null values with the most frequently occurring value, which was others. So all those things we did using combination of Excel and more of Power Query today. Tomorrow, please do not forget, you continue to use the same data table, and we got an expert data scientist working with Accenture for the last 8 to 10 years, who would actually take you through, take the same data that is ready for analysis, take it into Python, will help you also run some SQL queries and also help you visualize the data in order to analyze it further and make it ready for machine learning models. Guys, there are a couple of requests to you. First, yes, Vijayanti, the recording will be uploaded into YouTube channel, Ivy's YouTube channel, and also Jalipadu, I will give you the Google link. I will upload the Google link on Ivy's YouTube channel below the description of this particular. So this is the channel, guys. youtube.com/IvyProSchool. I would strongly advise you to subscribe to this channel, have the notification on because we keep doing such workshops, complimentary zero-cost workshops by industry speakers on very interesting data-related topics. So I'm going to upload this video is getting recorded and getting uploaded as well there, and I will also upload the link to the data set as well in Ivy's YouTube channel. And interestingly, you'll find a lot of such videos there. And also, do not forget to attend tomorrow's workshop, because if you attend tomorrow's workshop, then only you're eligible to get the certificate, and plus your learning will be holistic. You started something, you started learning about how to prepare the data for analysis. Tomorrow you'll actually go into analyzing the data in Python. So don't forget to attend tomorrow's workshop. Do not forget to, can we get paid internship? Well, we do have a lot of paid internship opportunities for our students as well. And if you're part of the students community, definitely you can be eligible for those paid internships. Some of our students just got into Google as well as part of their apprenticeship program. The CTC for internship was also pretty decent. So yes, HSBC, Nielsen, Google, Amazon, a lot of people, a lot of companies are hiring our students for internships as well. One last request, as I said before, guys, do search me on LinkedIn and get connected with me on LinkedIn. If you search Prateek Ivy, you will find my profile here, and do feel free to get connected with me on LinkedIn. It's a very powerful tool. And also on Twitter, if you want to get connected with me, I'm available in these 2 social platforms, guys. And don't forget to subscribe to Ivy's YouTube channel to get the recording of today's workshop and the dataset link and similar such workshops recordings. Thank you guys for attending today's workshop. There is a feedback link and there is a form, I think, given by Sonali. Do not forget to fill that form if you're interested in any of these learning these topics. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys again when I see you next. Have a good one. Thank you for asking all the interesting questions. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.